Is it not possible that there is a link between your immigration policy and youth unemployment numbers? And again, why so reflexively dismiss?
Oh, I'm not reflexively dismissing anything, Vassy.
I'll ask the question again, though, Minister. Like, when will that start making a difference for youth who are unemployed? I take your point that this Prime Minister has been there for 4 months, but it's just this Prime Minister. Liberals have been in power for a decade.
All right, guys, I've been asked to tone down the insults on my videos of these liberals, so I'm going to try my best. So anyway, the Crypt Keeper is our Minister for Jobs and Families. Patty Hajdu gets pressed pretty hard by Vassy during this interview as she tries to dodge questions against Vassy's relentless pressure. The only problem is this balloon head is too high on Mark Carney's farts to even comprehend what the discussion is about. It's a rarity to see Vassy directly put pressure on a liberal, so I hope you really enjoy this unveiling of the incompetence of the Liberal Party's DEI hires. Make sure you hit the like button to help me out in the algorithm. Consider subscribing. It's totally free, unlike our healthcare.
I spoke with BC's Premier David Eby a little bit earlier on in the program, and I wanted to start off on a link that both he and federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre are drawing between very high youth unemployment rates and the temporary foreign worker program. They're both asking, actually, your government to get rid of the program. Why have you thus far rejected that proposal?
Well, I mean, first of all, Vassy, temporary foreign workers make up less than 1% of the total Canadian workforce, and it is a pretty stringent program. Employers have to demonstrate that there is no Canadian worker in line for that job. They have to advertise, they have to interview with the department oftentimes, and prove that there is a need for a worker that's temporary. And then secondly, there are very stringent penalties should a worker should an employer be found to be abusing that program, up to and including being banned from the program. So although I hear the concern from the opposition, as you know, and I think the Premier has raised this, it is not based in actual statistics and numbers.
But I think in the Premier's case, for example, and I put those questions to him, right, around what level of evidence he has about how widespread the issue is. He came back with a number of examples from areas of his province that are highly populated. Because, of course, the argument from businesses is, look, we can't often find people to be in these jobs, local people, because either it's a 24-hour restaurant or it's a rural or remote area. And he came back with a number of examples. Boston Pizza, Starbucks, managers, for example, in the Lower Mainland that were filling these jobs with temporary foreign workers. Is it maybe not the best course of action to instinctually dismiss his concerns and not actually consider what might be necessary to amend this program just because you think the rules are stringent?
Oh, look, the rules have become even more stringent. For example, you can't get a temporary foreign worker in a metropolitan census area, an area that has a higher unemployment rate than 6%. So, there are very stringent criteria to be able to apply. What's a bit surprising about the Premier's allegations is, in fact, BC has a list of employers that they approve after the application has been submitted to the federal government. And so they actually control the list of employers that they will allow to use temporary foreign workers in their province.
Do I take from that comment, though, that you think that jurisdiction for doing so is in the province's hands and that the federal government does not plan on making any substantive changes to the temporary foreign worker program? Because the Prime Minister seemed to intimate a few weeks ago at the cabinet retreat otherwise.
No, absolutely. Look, we're always looking at ways to make sure and double check that Canadians are first in line for any work that is available in this country. That I have been clear about, and that the Prime Minister has been clear about. There are areas of the country that have very low unemployment rate and, for example, a high manufacturing footprint, that actually not being able to have workers that are from other countries would jeopardize, in their minds at least, the employment of the Canadians that work in those plants alongside the temporary foreign workers. But again, I will just remind Canadians that the temporary foreign worker program represents less than 1% of all our workforce. And, we continually evolve that program to make sure that it is Canadians first in line for all jobs. And if there are suggestions from premiers, if there are suggestions from other partners, I want to hear about them, because indeed we want to make sure that Canadians are first in line.
And I do understand the point around the percentage of temporary foreign workers, but there are enormous numbers of temporary residents in this country. And again, you'll see the opposition draw a link to sky-high youth unemployment numbers. And I will, respectfully challenge your government when it said back in March of 2024 that you wanted to reduce temporary residence to 5% of the population. Even when you said that it was 6.2%, it now sits in the first few months of 2025 at 7%. Is it not possible that there is a link between your immigration policy and youth unemployment numbers? And again, why so reflexively dismiss?
Oh, I'm not reflexively dismissing anything, Vassy, because I think that the youth unemployment rate reflects a number of things, including temporary residents, as you point out, students that are here on study permits, work permits that are issued after studies. These are all part of the mix. But I think there are a number of other factors that are affecting youth unemployment. And you may know that we transfer $3 billion to provinces and territories for youth skills development, for youth employment programs. We, of course, invest as well in a number of different ways. And, I'm looking forward to bringing employment ministers from across the country together very soon to talk about what more we do to make sure that we can continue to create jobs that give youth that leg up, that first time work experience, which is often so important.
And I would certainly, I think a lot of young people across this country would be heartened to know that that's something that the employment ministers and yourself are focused on. I guess I would ask, though, have you been focused enough? And has your response so far been to scale? I note a number of announcements you've made since June, but when I look back at the data, the youth unemployment rate was about double the average rate of unemployment since January of 2024. It is sky high right now. It is 14.6%. I know I don't have to tell you, but Canadians across this country are pretty affected by this. 14.6% is the highest youth unemployment rate outside of the pandemic since 2010. Has your response really been to scale, and what more are you prepared to do?
Well, listen, it's a time of anxiety for youth as well, and so that number reflects two different stories. Actually, we've disaggregated that data to get a better sense of which youth are struggling, and indeed, 15 to 19-year-olds, it's about a 20% unemployment rate, and it drops significantly for the 19 to 24-year-olds. Different set of youth, different set of realities, different set of solutions. So from 15 to 19 years old, oftentimes those young people are working. They might be working part-time. They might be in studies. That's why I think some of the additional investments that the federal government makes in workplace integrated learning and things like Canada Summer Jobs and some of the additional skills training for very vulnerable youth in that group are really important.
But with all due respect, Minister, when is all of that stuff supposed to start working? Because the only thing the youth unemployment rate has done since January of 2024 is continue increasing.
4 months ago, this government was elected on a promise to invest in Canadians, to invest in these major projects, and to invest in the infrastructure that our Canadian cities and towns and rural areas need. And through that investment, we'll create jobs. We have to continue. The youth are depending on us to continue this work together and really, really focus in on how we better align what they're learning in school, what they're experiencing in their training, and with the available jobs as they exist and as they evolve.
I'll ask the question again, though, Minister. When will that start making a difference for youth who are unemployed? I take your point that this Prime Minister has been there for 4 months, but it's just this Prime Minister. Liberals have been in power for a decade.
Well, listen, I think, I took immediate action when I was appointed the Minister of Jobs and Families. I knew by that youth unemployment rate and that disaggregated data that I talked about that young people, 15 to 19, were going to have a very difficult summer. You know that we have thousands of good-paying Canada Summer Jobs across the country that give youth a variety of experiences. We immediately injected another $25 million into that program. And that's the kind of solution that the Prime Minister is expecting us, solutions that Prime Minister is expecting us to come up with.
Listen, Patty, the trickle-down effect that scrapping the TFW program, halting mass immigration, deporting illegal aliens along with those who are illegal, which commit crimes on our soil, would be a major net benefit to our economy and our overall society. All of a sudden, there would be places to rent for actual Canadians, jobs for our youth, reduced crime, and the list goes on. And I have to call you out about that point of, the TFWs only make up less than 1% of the Canadian job force. Well, obviously, it's pretty easy to reach that conclusion when TFWs can get fast-track permanent residency within a year. Then guess what? They officially become Canadian. The media is equally guilty of this false equivalency, and here's a perfect example of that.
And 2 men from Windsor have been arrested in a violent carjacking in Brampton.
20-year-old Partik Itan and 22-year-old Simranjit Singh are charged with attempted murder, aggravated assault, and robbery. Peel police say a man was stabbed in the throat during a test drive after arranging a meeting to sell his vehicle through Facebook Marketplace in May. The vehicle was recovered in Windsor the next day.
So yes, The current batch of TFWs make up less than 1% of the workforce because the TFWs that came before have filled the positions of employment and gained permanent residency status from simply being the supervisor of a fast food restaurant. There's mountains of proof all over the country, just walk into any store, but the fact that this boomer is supposed to be advocating for the youth of our country is very concerning. I would have felt more confidence if it were a huge dude in black and red flannel with a beard and a tool belt. At least he would have something to offer in terms of employment for our youth. Anyway, yet another liberal propagandist telling you that everything is fine while our country is crumbling. If you have any stories or ideas for videos, feel free to comment below.